New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you over here. Today is Tuesday. It's 2 o'clock on the Mountain Time Zone, and that means it is time for New Thought today. And my guest is the amazing, incredible, awe-inspiring, how many more adjectives can I throw at this wonderful woman, Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes, who I count as a mentor and as a friend. And we always have such wonderful, wonderful discussions. So I am so grateful you are with us today. How you doing?
Oh, I've been really looking forward to being with you. You know, it's so funny because often you and I will get together, and we have on many occasions, and we'll say, wonder, what do we want to cover today? And, 2 hours later, we're like, wow, what happened? I just love being with you because I love being with someone that operates from the heart, not just the head. So glad to be here. Glad to be anywhere. Happy to be alive. Yes.
Exactly. Happy to be alive. Now, for folks that are watching, feel free to chime along, chat along, drop your comments in the chat box as we go along. We would love to hear from you today as well. Also, longtime listeners or viewers of the program might remember that Temple was with us back in February of last year. So we try to have everybody on at least once a year. Right? We've gone a little beyond our time limit with you. So it's, again, really, really good to have you back with us. And, one of the things we always like to do is just jump right in and say, what is up for you? What's on your heart? What is it that you'd most like to share when we look at this emerging vision and this emerging expression that is New Thought on planet Earth?
Well, I think one of the things that is a big word for the year would be trust. I've been toying around with this idea because, like yourself, I believe the best thing I can do for New Thought, more than talk about it or be a leader of it, is to work with how I'm growing with it and how my understanding of New Thought is deepening at any given day, any given moment. And I've been just really thinking about, there's a quote I said years ago when I was up and coming and New Thought as a spiritual leader. It's like, spirituality is not designed to replace common sense. Right? It's not designed to replace just simple common sense. And I would actually tie in the idea, Robert, that common sense equates to, common sense isn't like it's not like a word authenticity or, words get real or, it's more, to me, common sense is equivalent to our own intuition. And no one size fits all, right?
Right.
And so I've been kind of delving in that space lately because intuition and individuals expressing their own intuition told me a little over a year ago that I was to leave everything I had in Florida and absolutely relocate to Santa Barbara, California. And that means an amazing spiritual community that was truly New Thought with practitioners and unity and Metacostal and happening and inclusion and diversity, to relocate here, to go okay. And one of the biggest words, of course, would be trust. But the larger saving grace for me is I caught myself on a couple of times, Robert, going, and why? Why am I here? Because, I mean, why? And I remembered years ago, and this relates to everyone listening. I remembered years ago going to a ministerial conference, either with CSL or Unity, because I'm bi-spiritual. I've been in both organizations. I feel very honored to be able to say that. But at a conference, there was a Native American elder that was outside of Phoenix. And he said to our group, he said, we never teach children growing up in our culture the word why. Yeah. The word why, because it's not a proactive word. It's a victim word. And that has just been a great lesson for me, as my whole life is so different, with excitement a lot, but yet with this beautiful, rich layer of vulnerability. And it is through vulnerability that you get an immense opportunity to work through your shadow stuff. So in other words, it's been going on around here, I'll tell you that. However, so I was thinking about, for those of us that are taught, especially stateside, the word why in most societies, when we are born, we are an individuation of God. We're pure spirit. We're born as, look out, here I come. We intuit and use common sense as to what our needs are. Wah, wah, I need milk. Wah, wah, I need a change. Wah, wah, I need this. I need that. We know what we need. Right. And we always do, as great spirits. Ernest Holmes would tell us, we always know what we desire. It's within us, yes. And so we know what we need. And then we continue with that intuition until we're like upcoming and we can use a language to our parents. And they say, no, you can't have that. And we say, what? We say, why? And what do they say? Because I said so.
Yes.
Because I told you so because I said so. So that same person then goes into an educational private school or public school educational system. The child is supposed to be asking a question, not one size fits all. They ask a question, no, we can't do that, Margaret. Why? Because I told you so. They go to the preacher, not a new thought, thank God, hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Because I told you so. You have this disease and you're going to die. Why? I feel great because I told you so. What I'm finding is that if we are not busy developing our muscle of common sense and intuition, the louder voice becomes something that is telling us so. It may be media. It may be something on social. It may be through some politician. If that voice is louder telling us so, we often collapse into that. Now, here's my theory, and it's about worth, 50 cents, is about during COVID and COVID toast, I call it COVID toast, where people, it's like this. It's like during that era, in my humble opinion, we lost a lot of original thinkers. I don't know that we have a lot of them in the first place. I do this because, the leader of New Thought tells me that, or that tells me that, or that.
Yes.
I know you and I are on the same page. I'm more interested in somebody making up their own quotes than trying to repeat mine. I'm more interested in integration, in humanity, of people knowing one size doesn't fit all. And I'm not interested in telling ever anyone what to do. I'm interested in telling them they know what to do. And that's the only thing that works. So during COVID, Toast, we've lost some of our momentum in
Right.
new thought. I'm not being negative. I'm stating facts because a lot of those people got scared, became afraid, and collapsed into people are telling me what to do. So that's my thought for the day.
And it's always for many, it's always easier to do what you're being told. It's always easier to follow someone else's directive because that provides that sense of validation. It provides that sense of, oh, I'm a good boy, I'm a good girl, I'm a good person because I did what so and so told me to do, rather than following the divine intuition. And I love how you say that it's everybody's going to interpret that one power, presence, and intelligence. We're all going to interpret and experience it a bit differently. And that's the fun of it to me, that we do get to experience it differently. We do get to explain our own understanding of how to use these principles a little bit differently, and in what direction we're going. So I love the no whining, because my kids, I'll tell you, my kids, they say why, and I just look at them and they're like, I know, Dad, it never is a relevant question. And because I've been saying that to my family for years, why is never a relevant question. It always is. It can only be answered by because. And we're getting now an opportunity, I think, where we need to we are breaking out of the comatose, where there is an impulse, I feel, saying, now let's really step into our greatness. We were talking just before the show a little bit, and I was sharing that, and I learned this just today. New Thought will have the second largest contingency of people at the Parliament of World Religions next week in Chicago, and that's an event that draws tens of thousands of people. And for New Thought to be playing on that world stage. And so I the question that keeps coming to me is, how is New Thought ready? There we go. Are we, and just as I say that, an information from the Parliament pops up in my email, right? Is New Thought truly ready to take the world stage and stand shoulder to shoulder with what are traditionally recognized as the world's religions?
Well, that's a great question. I'm not even convinced that sometimes New Thought is ready within its own organizations to be bold and stand for really, under all circumstances, who we are. And yet I'm very clear, I'm not like the spokesperson of New Thought, nor am I implying that I am. I just live in questions a lot about where are we and where are we going. Now, as a frame of reference, I was at and spoke at the Parliament of the World Religions in 2015 in Salt Lake City. And for people to grasp this concept, is that in 2015 was the first time that New Thought was declared a true, legitimate organizational religion. And for us, religion would mean a way of life.
Yes.
And so it was the first time. So when you think about now, 8 years later, that we have 24. I just talked to Dr. Barbara Fields, and not long ago, we have 24 programs there. That's huge. So there is something to be said of that now's the time. And as we know, when you look at all the challenges, conditions, of the world, by far, New Thought is the closest to being the answer of any other organization.
Yes, I have to agree with you there.
Right?
Otherwise, I'd be doing the wrong business, right? We'd both be in the wrong business.
Yeah. I've never heard of a New Thought person that killed a group of people that has to have, heads of animals on their wall. I've never heard of a New Thought person intentionally doing damage, and perhaps we don't value that enough. We do have some legitimate answers about a lot of conditions of the world that would be immensely helpful. And
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's time for many of us to be bolder and braver. And there's that line, because we get written off real quick if we come across too upset, too had enough, too too much. I mean, I grew up in the closet with my sexuality and with my spirituality. Used to find a New Thought center was as hard as finding a good gay bar. And that's probably still the case. I don't know. I don't go around that door anymore. But that being said, it was very difficult to find a New Thought community. And it's been,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, it's not been easy for me to see the shrinking of a lot of our iconic centers.
I hear that absolutely, and I agree with you. There has been a shrinking of those communities and those centers, and it's there's a very interesting talk that was just given at the International New Thought Alliance Congress by Reverend Shad Groverland. And in that, he lamented a little bit and offered a vision. But one of the things that he was sharing was that in some ways, we, as New Thought, are enabling people in their social media addiction by bringing so much great content onto the platforms and into the world. Now, his prescription is to be very conscious not to enable the platforms, for it is the platforms that provide the true avenue towards the addiction. But it seems to me that if we're not available in as many places as we feel called, in as many places as we can be, we're going to lose that opportunity to break beyond New Thought's own bubble. It often feels like we're preaching to the same people, and you look at Facebook feed and there's 25 talks at 25 centers all doing the same talk with the same title on Sundays, and there seems to me there's a real opportunity for a newness to emerge, and for New Thought to break beyond our small circles of influence, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It used to be hard to find a church, as you're saying.
Yeah.
It's easier to find a church or a community or a center or whatever name we want to give to it. But the content sometimes feels rather rote and bland.
Or you can go to a happening place. I mean, people used to come to my former community. They're doing great things there. I'm
Right.
really thrilled. The Reverend John Scott is there. They're doing amazing things, as that's the way it's supposed to be in evolution. But that being said, people would come to our community. We stand up. We're making noise. I mean, we're not going to sit there. There is no sleeping in this place, And they would go to other places and go, geez, this is so disappointing, because I really want to be part of something like this. It's not for everybody.
Right.
I want to be, some people, like you said, would rather be told what to do. They want to be lectured at. I would fall over in my chair in 5 minutes. Boring, but everybody's different. But I couldn't imagine today leading spiritual community, and I speak sometimes at Unity of Santa Barbara. I know that people in New Zealand are watching. I know people in Japan are watching. I know people in all over the world are watching. And I could not imagine not having an organization that doesn't express on social media. Social media isn't going away. Um, if it's only going to increase, we learned in school years ago, if you can't beat them, join them. I mean, can you imagine? We are no longer going to have a social media platform. You have to come here. I mean, I don't understand that, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I know that I'm thrilled when we get letters from all over the world because of people, social media. I don't know if you're aware, but I have a nonprofit that I've had since 2007. Robert, I don't know if you and I have ever talked about that. It's called Global Peace Workers. And it gives stateside and it also gives internationally.
Okay.
And because of Facebook, a tribe in Kenya discovered the work that I do. And so now there's this a village in Kenya that they are, the first time the guy was getting to know me and he was following me, he Facebook messaged, he DM'd me or whatever we're saying. He said, "We'd love to invite you to come to Kenya." And I said, whoa, we have to date first. I said, we have to really have a strong conversation about your religiosity and about my belief system. I'm not asking you to believe what I believe, but I need you to know there's definitely a difference. And if we can be in the middle of those, more power to you. And you need to know that I am a gay woman, been married many years, and I don't just jet set to places until I know what is there, But
Right.
we went on to become friends, and we've affected incredible community with buying chickens for them and goats and cattle, and it's
Good.
amazing. And I know we got to go to break. I can feel it intuitively. Intuitively, I can see it in your eyes.
Exactly. We do need to go to break, folks. So we're going to say hello to a couple of our sponsors, let you know a little bit more about what's happening here on New Thought Media Network. But please don't go away. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Let your friends and family know what we're doing. We'll be back in just a couple minutes with more of New Thought Today and our special guest, Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes. Stay tuned.
You are a gift. That is the absolute truth. You are a gift, a blessing to the world, a way that the infinite love of God shines itself, shares itself, and expresses itself more fully in the world. You are a gift and a blessing. Please take that seriously. Take it as your honor. Take it as your opportunity to be a light that shines for others. Be that bright light of God's love that's the truth of who you are. And enjoy it, because you deserve it.
And we're back with more of New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. My guest today, Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes. And if you're just joining us before the break, you brought in one of my new favorite words, Kenya. And for many that may be watching already know, there is a CSL now in Kenya. It's been there for a handful of years. Reverend Connie Phelps pioneered that program, and now it's in the hands of a couple other women out of British Columbia. And there's a real and New Thought Media Network will be going there in late January, early February of next year for a conference that they're offering. If anyone's interested, let us know. But it brings up for me this thing that's been emerging in my heart and in my mind and in my vision, and that is, it is so imperative when bringing or sharing or supporting new thought in these other cultures. So Latin America is another example. Kenya is what we're talking about now. Not to overlay North American new thought on top of what these folks are doing and how they're learning, but to support the bubbling up of new thought in that culture and support how it takes form in that culture. So not telling people this is what you got to do and this is how you start a church and this is what the forms you got to have, but to really authentically listen and support what's naturally rising to the surface of that culture's consciousness, because that's the way New Thought works. Nobody goes looking for this, but once it finds us, I think it's important, or once it starts to rise up in a region or a culture, again, like Kenya, I think it's really important that we support it rather than dictate it. Am I making sense for you?
Oh, I totally follow you. And I just want to give a shout out to Shay Michelle Davis. I was going to comment, but I realized that I don't have access to comment. So I just want to say, loving everything that you're saying. For me, Robert, and you and I are on the same page. We've talked passionately about so many things. See, to me, whatever we represent, it must have an integrity, a component to it. So when our organizations are saying they are international, right? Mm-hmm. They are global organizations. That doesn't mean once a year at a conference, people can wear their outfits to the United States and say that they have a group. It means there's a responsibility with that. And for me, there are people in the States that will show up for a fundraiser and they will not give to anything that's outside the United States. There are people that feel that way. There's people that will only give to children. There are people that will only give to animals. You have different categories of people that are choosing where they want to put their passion. Right. For me, in our USA, not in every city, not in every place in the land, but the majority of the USA, we don't understand what it's like when you wake up and you don't know which child you're going to favor because you can't feed them. And so what I loved, even way back 15 years ago and going to Peru, I loved the fact that I saw like 12 children playing a game with a plastic bottle. So for the consciousness, you can do so much for $150, $200 that not just you can change a moment, you can change an entire tribe. And for me, New Thought is so much more than a glorified self-help movement. We've had a lot of self-helpers make a gazillion dollars off of the New Thought teaching. I'm not making that wrong. Come on in, you're broke. Let's keep helping you. Let's keep helping you. Let's keep helping you. Well, see, to me, that's why obviously I didn't do too well with those programs, because you're not broken. That's a bunch of crap. You are whole. You are holy. I don't have one thing that you need to fix you. We just need you to get out and do what you know to do. And go do it, but we did. We've had an era where New Thought became self-helping that plagiarized to focused on permanent broken people. And that really upsets me. because we have missed a number of opportunities because we could impact globally. It's like the guy that I work with in Kenya, he said, you don't understand. We had a whole tribe of people that were sitting around going, we don't even know if there is a higher power or God anymore. We're dying.
Mm.
And for a little bit of energy and a little bit of money and a little bit of love and a little bit of Zoom and a little bit of social media, these
Right.
people have become alive. And you can see, Robert, some of the videos on templehays.com under activism. And I've just brought on a executive director that is doing the whole global peace worker model because it's so important. And you and I could join together on a few projects too. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take a lot. It just takes consciousness to show new thought. I mean, to me, that's my job, is to show new thought, not talk new thought. Yippee-yi-yay. You know, it's to show it. Here's how
Yeah.
a life can permanently be changed. It's like Howard Thurman says, stop asking yourself what the world needs and start becoming alive. The world needs more people that are alive.
That have come alive.
Anyway, as you can tell, I don't have any strong opinions about much.
Well, and truthfully, that's why I love having you on this program. That's why I love our conversations when we have them, because you don't allow yourself the mistake, let's say, of trying to dumb it down or trying to just please everybody or trying to say the politically expedient or proper thing. And I have never really heard you offend anyone, because much like we were talking about in the first segment, your consciousness is one of bringing forward the light and one of progress. So it's the optimist versus the pessimist. And anytime we have a conversation, I walk away feeling great because you've given me a new hopeful look, a new vision of what is possible, rather than what we can't do.
No, that touches me. I felt that in my heart. And I think this is the part that if we really believe in what Holmes taught, or the Fillmores, I cannot give my energy, my love, my time and resources to Kenya without affecting Santa Barbara.
Right.
If I either believe in infinity, or I believe in a little tiny box, or I believe in spirituality in a little aquarium with one little goldfish. It's like when people were hit in Florida, at Fort Myers and that area, and they were wiped out and many people died and all. I mean, I was so passionately troubled. How's that? By people going, oh, good. I'm glad it didn't happen where you used to live. And I went, I live in Fort Myers. I live in Kenya. I live in Washington. I live where Robert lives. I live in Mountain Time, Pacific Time. I live in Central Time. I am of the world. It doesn't say, be ye the light where your zip code is. It doesn't say that. Shall you be the light? And that's the part that I do hold myself to a higher standard, not one of perfectionism, not of someone that's broken. I did that already. I almost drank myself to death. I was pretty successful at it, almost. But it's more about I'm either of the world or I'm not. And if I just want to be localized, then why does anybody travel anywhere? Just stay where you are with your own little sweet zip code. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to understand wherever you reach with whatever butterfly tsunami that you have, you're reaching everything and everyone around you. It's not, if I give to one, I don't have enough left to give to another. That's where we are, sadly, politically and everything else, is the world of division.
Right.
And united we stand, and divided we are merely a distraction. It's always both and. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Folks, I hope you're taking notes out there, because it's getting good in here. I love what I hear. You've given me like several talks now already that I can take one of these lines and make it into 20 minutes pretty easily. So, but I really like where you just were. United we stand, and divided we're a distraction. It's we can't fall. We will survive. Things will get better. We will come back to a greater sense of our wholeness and our oneness and our unity. So the division is the distraction that keeps us from embracing the fact that you are my sister, you are my brother, you are my non-binary collaborator, whatever anybody wants to use, whatever anybody wants to be seen as, however anybody wants to represent it. To me, our job is to say, cool, I love that you're doing that.
Well, I'm like you. I'm fed up with hearing people say that's none of my business. I mean, when is it going to be your business? When we're all going bubble bubble, when the climate change is just, when is it going to be your business?
True.
Hello.
Yeah. I hear it all the time in New Thought circles. Well, we don't do politics. We don't talk about those things. And it's no, we have to. We have to. Now we have to do it also with a compassionate heart. We have to do it in alignment with the principles we have, because otherwise you show up at a peace rally and you're the one screaming and yelling and bringing negativity to the peace rally. We've got
exactly. I mean, for me, excuse me for talking on top of you, but for me, it's not about, I'm going to be talking about the law of politics, because I don't spend enough time there. But I'm going to talk about how spiritual law is affected by politics. And there's a big difference. Marianne Williamson, can talk about the law of politics because she's well educated in that. Yep. But for me, it's spiritual law is greatly impacted by politics. I am going to speak spiritually about election year. They're so busy, creating the divide, telling people what to do who aren't original thinkers. They're changing policies way behind the scenes. And you wake up and you go, well, when did a grape get to be $12? It's because of the sleepiness of the energy. And it is our business. And like I remember years ago, after many years in shamanism, I was invited to be a guest at one of the Science of Mind centers, and somebody says, well, we don't talk about darkness. Well, it's special. That's just real special. I mean, you can not talk about something, but you don't look intelligent, because come 11 o'clock at night, it's dark for several hours. And if you can face things in your life and say, it's all hummy, glory, kumbaya, that's not anything I want to teach. It's not fakeism. Okay. Right. It's the ability to be in both dimensions at any given time. There's tons of light, but you appreciate it more if you walked on occasion through a little bit of dark. But that's just my humble opinion.
Yeah. Without the juxtaposition, we don't know the light is the light if we don't have those experiences And I have yet to ever meet anybody that hasn't gone through a dark night of the soul in their life and their experience. They may not know that term, they may not recognize it in that way. And I agree with you. It does everybody a huge disservice to deny that that is part of the human condition. True, yes, it is not the divine ideal. It is not the divine condition. It is not that template of the purity of light and love and beauty and truth that we all are by our nature. And even the sun, we get an eclipse of the sun here on planet Earth every so often that reminds us there has to be that both and. You've said that a few times today, and I think that's such an important part of the teaching. Is there is always the both and from no matter what we're talking about, and no matter which perspective we're looking at it from.
Absolutely, there is the existence of so many things, and yet the distinction, right, is none of it is necessary to have power over me. There is something greater within me that is greater than this particular thing I see or experience or any of that. But I said at a unity conference, it's so hysterical sometimes when I hear people say, "Oh, I can't ever talk about a condition." And I always say, "Well, I'm glad Myrtle Fillmore did, because if she hadn't, we wouldn't have the unity movement." If she said, "Whoa, I don't really have tuberculosis, I'm going to pursue an answer." Whoa, it's going to get me.
We did. I definitely see that in communities where people lose sight of that. Yeah, we've got to say, this is my condition and I shall heal it. Not just stick our. I've often said that in New Thought, once you learn these principles, once you understand this, you can deny that you know the truth. You can try to stick your head in the sand. You can try to pretend you don't know how it all works. But deep inside, once you're activated, you know how it works. And you know you have the power to pull yourself out of those conditions. Some people just seem to like to hang out in those poor me victimhood mentality rather than use the principle the way they know that it works. But again, once you know it works, you can't hide from that truth. You will forever know that you have the power within you to change the conditions of your life.
Absolutely. And that's how we first started. Spirituality is not designed to replace common sense.
Right.
And that is, we must, as New Thought teachers, leaders, and practitioners, use intelligence that people can relate to. And you can show a person clearly the difference between living in the rocky boat of an issue in life or being the lighthouse.
Yeah.
But it's necessary to conditions come to us as a sacred friend. And that's first step number one. It's your sacred friend. It's there getting your attention to take you in a new direction about your life. And if it's denied and you spiritual bypass it, you miss out on the new possible direction of your life. It's like, I've always said, and I say this in my book, When Did You Die? You can lie to your body and it will lie you down. Is that an affirmation? That's a fact, people. That's a fact. And that's another thing that I want to do a comedic show or something. When did we stop feeling like we can't state facts? Robert, I don't understand it. I can show you a car that I used to love, and I could say to you, but Robert, that car, honey, was high maintenance.
Right.
Well, why can't I say that about a good friend of mine? I don't understand why I have to say, "Oh, that's judgment," and "Oh, that's so unchristlike of me." Why can't I just say that? Why can't I say, I love my cousin, moody as heck?
Right.
You know, like people say about me, sometimes she's too much. You can say that. And I hope you say that because that's a compliment to me. I want more people to be too much with what they believe. You know what I mean?
I
But
hear
when did we stop being able to state facts? It just, it's like, oh my gosh. It's like, give me a break. You know, I don't get it.
You are firing up the conversation here. Shay was asking, please talk about the condition, no spiritual bypassing, and you've been hitting on that with a lot of cylinders, and also with the comment, you can lie to your body and it will lie you down. I think that's one that a lot of us miss, and I do agree. We've become, in some ways, overly protective of absolute correctness in face of in opposition to speaking the truth.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that I don't agree with the way they show up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not going to try to change them because that's not my job. But we do have to speak it like it is, speak the truth as we see it, and speak the truth so that others may hear, because sometimes it wakes that other person up to the fact that, oh, there's a different way to be in the world.
You know, sometimes it just feels like we all need to go to like permanent New Thought 12-step meetings. I mean, if it weren't for certain conditions, we wouldn't have penicillin. You know, if they love sitting in the dark, we wouldn't have light bulbs. I mean, what the heck? You know, where does this we recognize a condition so we can transform beyond it to invention, to being innovative, to asking other questions, to checking back into our own common sense, intuitive faculty. Because if we do not, we are always suspect in somebody telling us what to do and how to do it, which will never work.
Right.
It won't ever work because it wasn't integrated. That's why you and I have talked about the teacher component, because if I just stand up behind a lectern, which I don't like to do, if I ever stand up and I'm talking at, it's all frou-frou. But if somebody's telling me their new thought truth, their new thought beliefs, even if they want to debate, I love that. You know, people have said to me, I've said it, you know, rehearsal parties or stuff, and they'll say when they find out, if they do find out that I'm a reverend, they go, oh, probably upset you. And I go, for what? I'm meeting you for the first time because I'm an atheist. And I said, oh, I love atheists. Are you kidding? What do you mean? Nobody's ever said that to me. I said, you spread the word of the divine more. You're like the greatest PR firm because you spend more time talking about what God isn't than the people that are supposed to be practicing God ever let anybody know. I love you people.
There we go. I love that too. That is fabulous. Hey, before we run out of time here, let's make sure that we share with people how they can stay in touch, how they can learn more about you. Your website is templehays.com. And this is what you'll see when you land there, folks. And you can get a free chapter. Get your free chapter by signing up for Temple's e-newsletter right there on the front page. So tell us a little bit more about the book before we run out of time here today.
The book is actually, I'm doing a rewrite of it right now because I've just been having people out in the field just say how transformative it is because you know, to me, the whole thing is the secret of life isn't whether we will live or die. It's the parts of ourselves that we allow to die while we're living. And just an event like we just have come out of, like the pandemic. Some people choose to live greater and more dynamic, and other people decided to die a little, give up hope, not be on fire, as to who they have been known to be. And it's regardless of age. And so I give practical how-tos and exercises that you can use. And it's really my life's work. And more so than anything, I wrote the book to help me because I want to be 150 years old. So I want to have lots of energy and aim high. So it's about how to face life as a human being. And that's the common sense part.
Yeah.
I used to think in my own, ignorance, that the more spiritual or the more I practice spirituality, because we're all spiritual. Ernest Holmes said nothing's more spiritual than a ham sandwich. I would have to say a tofu sandwich, but whatever. I used to think, okay, you get into this practice, and I would think you get less and less human. And I think that's what a lot of people believe. To me, it's the opposite. You become more human. You feel. You can sense something. I remember one weekend sensing something was going to happen, and I told a group of friends, I think some kind of massive something is going to happen. I don't know what it is, but I feel it. And 2 days later, they put a newspaper in my driveway. The tsunami had hit Japan. We become more human and feeling our brothers and sisters and sentient beings on the planet. And if we're living in a place that says, I don't allow that, oh, I can't go there, oh my gosh, that's not spiritual, we're cheating ourselves on the greatest spiritual invention. And that's our constant birth of ourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh, beautiful. Thank you. Folks, we need to take one more real quick break and say thank you to some of our organizational sponsors and individual donors. However, we do have one more segment coming back up. We've got our final thoughts with Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes coming up in just a minute. Please don't go away. We'll be right back after this. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors and donors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center Kitchner, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, and all of our individual donors and sponsors. Thank you for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. Please come be you. Yes. Thank you, dear ones, for being a part of what we're doing here on the New Thought Media Network. If you'd like to learn more or become part of our committed giving program, head on over to the website, ntmedia.org. Click on the donate button and make it a monthly donation. We'll include you in the next version of our thank you video. All right, Dr. Temple, before we go today, we have covered so much ground. And, that's part of what I love about conversations with you. It is this outpouring of absolute truth and inspiration every time we get together. So again, thank you for being with us. And before we go, we always like to give our guests an opportunity to share some final thoughts. If you had 1 minute to share your wisdom with the world, what would you share?
That the best relationship you'll ever have in your life is using common sense and realizing that relationship is you. That's where it starts. That's how you see the world. It's how you view everything, is being comfortable with who you are. And thank you for your contribution to the planet, because we're all in this together. There is no divide. So I'm going to finish with the quote that was gifted to me through the divine. Again, united we stand, divided we are merely a distraction. And Robert, I honor you on the great work that you continue to do. Thank you for your willingness to be brave and bold and being you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. I look forward to having you back again on another occasion. And I promise we won't wait a year and a half to have you back again.
Bless you, dear one.
Thank you. All right, folks, that's all we've got time for today. I'm going to get out of here as well. Until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.